What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you the 55 two-door wagon project that we're working on. So this car came to us as a half-finished project, a partially finished project. The car originally sat at another shop, and the owner of the car came to us and wanted to buy an oil pan, the muscle car pan to be exact. So we hooked him up with an oil pan, and he came back and wanted to buy for an accessory bracket, high mount setup. So we sold him a Dirty Dingo bracket. He also wanted an LS6 intake manifold, which we got him one of those as well. And then he wanted to have his truck harness reworked for standalone, as well as work with the LS6 intake manifold. So we got all that done for him, and the car again was set at another shop. And the other guy basically didn't have enough time to finish the project. The car was also at the body shop for a little while, which is why it's covered in body shop dust. So the car came to us. The guy asked us if we wanted to fix it, or if we wanted to finish the car. So we told him, we'd go ahead and finish it, get it where it would start up, get it where you can drive it. But the project that we inherited is a bit rougher than what we expected. There are quite a few things that are missing, a lot of things that need to be done. The car is bare bones. There's no interior. There's no fuel system, no coolant system. There's nothing on this car except the engine, the transmission, the rear end, and drive shaft and stuff like that. A lot of work was done by the other shop. A lot of it was not done correctly. We're going to have to redo the motor placement. As you can see, the engine is set way too far forward. There's no way to put an intake on that. You would struggle to change the belt in the car. Plenty of room for the engine to go backwards. The front frame section is off of some type of Camaro, from what I understand from the notes that came along in the notebook with the car. The headers, I'm not sure what they're for. They're going to get replaced. What we're running into, though, is there's no room forward on the engine. The engine's got to go back. We've got to utilize the room behind it. In doing so, these headers are not going to clear. The frame also has some kind of notch going on down there. It's kind of hard to see, but it's really rough. So we're going to swap to a different style header that's more of a rearward exit, more common style swap header. The engine, I'm going to have my dad come down and fabricate new mounts and everything, and new extensions onto the crossmember to move the engine backwards, which means the transmission crossmember is going to have to be changed as well. We found quite a bit wrong with the car in looking at it. The brake line, or all the brake lines, were done by the previous shop. As you can tell, they were not done correctly. You can see the brake line come out and run over the top of the transmission, which is incredibly wrong. I don't know why that was done. That's terrible and dangerous. That's going to have to be redone. The car does have tubular control arms. It has QA1 adjustable coilovers on the front end. They're not set up yet, but they are there. It has a smaller brake booster. Not sure if the placement of that is correct yet or not. We're going to look into that. We have an American Auto wire harness, headlights to taillights, all new. We're working on getting that laid out. American Auto wire fuse block. The engine fuse block is going to get relocated to the inside. The PCM is going to have to live in this area somewhere down here, because after looking at it, the engine harness was originally a 5.3 Silverado truck harness, and after being reworked to clear the intake manifold, it didn't leave a whole lot of room or a whole lot of length in the harness to give you many options with the PCM. So looks like it's going to fall about there. We considered putting it inside, but in these Tri-5s, the dash is not very tall, and there's no underbody paneling like there is in newer vehicles. So to put the PCM inside, it would be visible no matter where we put it. We don't really want to go that route. If it's going to be visible, I'd rather be visible under here rather than under there. We're going to run into some fitment issues in terms of the heater core outlets. As the engine goes backwards, the heater core lines are going to run into the control arm. We're going to have to find a solution to that, because no matter what, the engine has to go backwards. The radiator will sit forward of the core support. There'll also be a vintage AC system in here, so there'll be an AC condenser and a puller fan as well. Not sure what that layout is going to look like until we get the engine moved back. Kind of hard to say. We may run into issues with the coils and the brake booster. If that's the case, we'll swap from these earlier style coils to the smaller round truck coils with the heat sink on them. It'll give us more clearance because they'll move upward and lower down. It'll help out with some of that. Hopefully that'll clear the rail for the fuel system. So inside the car, as I said before, there's a whole lot of nothing in here except parts. We are installing a Dakota Digital gauge cluster. As you can see here, still have the plastic on it, because I'm not sure that's the last time it's going to be installed, or if that's even the bezel we're going to use. We're working on finalizing the American Auto wire kit, determining which wires we're going to use. This is the classic update kit, so it has a lot of extras that are optional in it. Some things that it has we're not going to use because the LS harness already incorporates that and ties into the Dakota Digital cluster, so we're not going to use any of the actual cluster wiring in the American Auto wire kit. We're also working on the interior lighting, the courtesy lights. This car was a real base model, so it doesn't have the courtesy light switches in the door jambs. We're going to have to install those. There's also no accelerator pedal, and there's still a clutch pedal. I don't know the full history of the car. I'm assuming it was a 3-on-a-tree car, but the floor pans have been replaced, so it's kind of hard to tell if there was ever actually a shifter hole in it. There's some kind of shifter mechanism on the column, which leads me to believe it was a 3-on-a-tree, but I'm not even sure if the column's original. The steering wheel is definitely the original steering wheel. That's getting replaced as well. The dash of the car is the color that the car is going to be in its final form, though I have to admit the paint work and prep work is absolutely atrocious. I didn't do that. Not sure which shop did that, but it's bad. It's really, there's a lot of sand scratches, body filler, modeling in the flake in the paint. It's just not good. We're going to work with the owner and see if we can find someone better to do the paint work on the car. One of the things we're working on is mounting the Dakota Digital control unit for the gauge cluster. And as I mentioned earlier, in these Tri-5s, the dash is not very deep. It only comes down to right here. The carpet runs up there, so anything you mount behind the dash is going to be highly visible. So we obviously don't want to mount the control unit right there. What we're looking at doing is actually mounting the control unit to the base of the dash in this position off of a bracket, which we'll use a metal epoxy to adhere to the bottom of the dash so that we don't drill any holes in it. But we also have to take into account that we're going to use a vintage air unit as well, so we need to remember that there's going to be a box assembly down there that houses the heater core, the AC evaporator core, the blower motor, all that stuff, and some duct work down there. The owner of the car has a lot of spare parts. As you can see, we have numerous gauge clusters, from automatic cars to 3-on-a-tree cars, all kinds of weird stuff. The guy has a lot of parts for a lot of different cars. He brings us stuff from time to time. I'm not sure what all he has for this car specifically, or exactly what shape it was in when he initially bought it. As you can tell, the doors have been replaced. All the hardware in the doors have been replaced. The rear gate has also been replaced, as well as all the hardware. involved with that. This is a very involved project. It's going to take quite some time to get done with it. The frame is not from this car originally. It was a frame that the owner purchased that has a 4-9 inch underneath it. It's been lowered in the rear. As I mentioned before, it has a Camaro front clip on it with tubular control arms, QA1 adjustable coil lowers. There's a lot going on down there. Not sure what the quality of any of it really is just yet. There's some things I've seen that I want to make a change to. Unfortunately, the drive shaft's already been built for the car with the engine set in its current position. That's going to have to be changed. Once we get the engine set in its final position, we'll end up moving the engine and transmission will move back as a whole. We'll have to have the drive shaft shortened. Sucks that that's the case, but that's what the previous shop did, and it's not going to work in final form to make this car reliable, daily driver, show quality status. So we're piecing this thing together from scratch, trying to update it. It's not one of our most exciting projects. I mean, everyone's seen an LS and a Tri-5. You've seen Dakota Digital clusters in them. You've seen American Auto Wire kits in them. They're all great products, but they're so great, and so many people use them that it's kind of one of those things that's almost boring. I hate to say that because there's nothing really that boring about a car that's cool, but it's kind of boring. It's nothing revolutionary. But this car, you'll see it in the background of the videos that we film around here. It's always sitting around. I figured we'd introduce you guys to what we have going on with it. It's going to be a very involved project. We'll try to film some of the custom work we do on it. I wish we'd have got this project from the get-go, but we're working behind someone else. So there's a lot we're going to have to correct and limitations we're going to have to work within, unfortunately. You know how it is inheriting a project. You always end up with things that have been done that unfortunately have to be redone. The 5.3, which is what's in this car, it's a LM7 5.3 liter. It has a comp cam in it. I don't recall the specs offhand. I have a copy of the cam card somewhere. I'll have to find it, look that up for you guys. The engine's never been fired with the cam. It's never been tuned. We're trying to get this thing hopefully drivable by spring, if that's doable. These cars are kind of expensive to work on, so there's a lot of back and forth between my shop and the owner in discussing what needs to be done with the car, what he has for the car, what he needs to have ordered for the car. There's a good bit of money in this thing. There's a good bit of money to be spent on this thing. So to get it drivable, we've got a lot of work to do. We're not doing the interior in the car, the glass work or body work. We're just wiring anything functional, drivetrain, powertrain, electronic and wiring wise is what we're working on in this. But to get the car to move under its own power would be a really big deal by springtime. Because as I said, there's a lot missing. We still got to do the wiper system in the car. It has bits and pieces of the original wiper system, but they're all worn out or broken. We're really wanting to convert it over to the electronic wiper system, but that's a lot of money. We've got to discuss that with the owner and figure out what he wants out of that. But those things are important when accounting for where we mount these modules in the car, where we route wiring. That's the thing with the resto mod, is you're not putting things back where they went. You're putting some things back where they went originally, and the other things you're having to be creative in where you mount them. And there's a lot of variables that have to be taken into account when you do that. We're trying to make sure we cover all of our bases on that. Trying to hide as much as we can. I wish the PCM wasn't going to live under the hood, but unfortunately I think that's where we're at with the car, given the initial requirements and given the plan that the car was built on originally. I think that's what's going to happen. It's not the end of the world, but it'd be nicer if I could hide the PCM to make it a little less visible. Maybe we'll make a cover for it or something. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So that's the 55 two-door wagon that we're working on. It's a very involved project. It's a very long-term project. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you're interested. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram if you want to stay updated on where we're at on the car, where we're going with it. can't promise you it's going to be that interesting of a build. It's kind of a common Tri-5 build, but we'll try to show some of the details of what we have going on and have some fun with it once we get it running. Obviously, we've got to tune this thing for the cam, so it's going down the road. We don't have seats either, though, so we may end up with buckets in there strapped down with a ratchet strap to get down the road. Who knows? But stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated.